Hello learners, welcome back to my YouTube channel Psychology Globe. Myself Simran and I'll be helping you with understanding basic psychology concepts. So before we begin today's video, please like, share and subscribe the channel and also press the bell icon to get notified about my future updates. So the topic for today's video is experimental method. Now when we talk about research methods in psychology, there are a number of methods like case studies, interviews. These methods are quite easy to be understood by the beginners, but experimental method is the one that demands a little effort. Now what is experimental method? First of all, we have to understand the meaning of experiment in psychology. Experiment in psychology is any situation which tries to establish cause and effect relationship between two variables. Now let's say there are two variables A and B. There can be more than two variables, but for the sake of simplicity, let's assume that there are only two variables. Now what is a variable? Variable is any value that varies according to the situation. It is quite similar to the concepts that we used to do in mathematics, in algebra. Now x was capable of taking any value. It could be 2, it could be 4, it could be 1000, it could be lakhs. So now let's understand the two types of variables. The first type is the independent variable and the second type is the dependent variable. The independent variable is the one which can be manipulated by the researcher. For example, if I am the researcher, I am capable of making any changes in the independent variable, but I cannot make any change in the dependent variable. So whatever changes I'll be making in the independent variable, its effects will be noticed on dependent variable. So there are two more terminologies that we usually come across when we discuss experimental method. The first is the experimental group and the second is the control group. The experimental group is the one which is exposed to independent variable manipulation, and the control group is the one which is not exposed to any independent variable manipulation. Yes, there can be some extraneous variables like noise, but these can be controlled under laboratory settings. So now I'll explain this experimental method with the help of an illustration. This illustration is an example of a professional experiment which was conducted by Latane and Darley in 1970. They were two professional psychologists. Now let's talk about the Latane and Darley experiment. In this experiment, there were three groups: experimental group number 1, experimental group number 2 and the control group. Now the participants were called from Columbia University. In the first room, two people were already seated there and they were asked that when all the three rooms they will be filled up with smoke, they have to give no reaction in front of the participants. And there were two people who were seated with the participants in experimental group number 2 room, and they were not given any specific instructions. And when we talk about the control group, as we've already discussed, there is no independent variable present in the control group, so the participants were absolutely alone in the third room. So it was noted that when the smoke filled up the rooms, the maximum reporting was made by the control group. On second number, the reporting was made by the people who were not given any instruction, and the least reporting was given by the experimental group number 1, where the people who were already seated there, they were asked to give no reactions. So this clearly establishes the relationship between the independent variable, that is the presence of people other than the participants, and the dependent variable, which is reporting of the smoke. So this was all about today's video. I hope it clears your doubts. I'll be posting new videos very soon. Till then, goodbye.